What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Gridiron Brawl. We are your hosts, Sam and Pat, back for episode number 8. We are well into the season now. Got a lot to talk about, but first of all, Pat, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Sam. Doing good. Packers 4-0, headed to the bye week. Big win last night against the Falcons. Devontae Adams out. Thought he was going to play, but they got the victory. Looked really good. First team in NFL history to score 30 points in every game in the first 4 games, and not turn the ball over. So can't ask for anything else right now. Real happy.
Yeah, man.
How about you?
Your
How
Packers,
you doing?
man, they're looking scary. And I mean, it's kind of tough for me. I'm doing all right because, first of all, my Niners lost. Then my A's lost today. Now we're down 0-2 in that series in the baseball world. But 2-2, man, it's a terrible start right now.
To the Astros, too. The worst.
Yeah, that pains me.
That
just
hurt.
Like it always hurts just losing to that team. Because, I don't really need to get into it. But, anyways, from the football side, 2-2, man. I talked about this on my stream. Like, this team should be in panic mode right now. Like, we have no clue. The play calling's off. So many injuries. We'll talk about it all in this episode. But, yeah, guys, we're going to be doing the normal progression, I should say. We're going to talk about all the games this week. Talk about the waiver wires during the game, and if we have time, we'll get into predictions. Last week, we also tweeted out the predictions. That did pretty well, so if we don't make it to that, we'll make sure to tweet them out. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So I say that this week, usually we start with the Thursday night game. We didn't last week because of the COVID story, and another big story broke on Monday, and that was the firing of Bill O'Brien. And Pat and I, we've been talking a lot about how bad the coaching has been. And one of those coaches who's been doing a terrible job is finally out the door.
Yeah, from being a Penn State fan, he bailed on Penn State after 1 year. Joe Paterno died. He took over the program. And, he had a good season when he was there. Allen Robinson was on the team. High hopes were there. And then he bailed 1 year and went to Houston. So I've always had kind of a grudge out for him. But I don't think he's the worst coach of all time, but he had way too much control and it backfired so bad. He could have been the worst GM of all time. And I think, they had to move on. They had to go on to the next chapter because they have no first round or second round pick next year, no victories this season or DeAndre Hopkins. So there's nothing to show for it. And they have the highest cap, right now. They have the highest salary total right now in the NFL. There's a really big this is panic mode, and I think it's a good move by them to, not wait it out, not wait till the season ends, go move on because it was getting ugly.
I don't think they could afford to wait it out at this point. And I gotta say, Bill O'Brien as a coach, I actually kind of liked him as a coach. I gotta be frankly honest. It was time for him to move on though, because you can't fire when you're a GM and a coach. If you're going to be fired as the GM, is the person really going to want to coach? No, they're not. So I think it was a necessary move. You had to move on from him from GM. It was just a lose-lose situation for the Texans. And now they're 0-4, as you just mentioned, 0-4, no first or second round picks, the highest payroll in the NFL. I would not be surprised to see them blow it up soon. Maybe even trading Deshaun Watson if that could be in the realm. Probably not. But if they could go complete rebuild here. But an 0-4 start, man, it's looking bad in Houston right now. So, and going to the game, they actually played pretty well, I guess. They were okay, but they lost to Minnesota 31-23. And my one takeaway from this game is Justin Jefferson is the real deal.
Yeah, my one takeaway from this game would be Dalvin Cook. Once again, just had a really nice performance. I think with the last thing with Bill O'Brien was that move with DeAndre Hopkins. It wasn't even just trading away Hopkins, but how they acquired David Johnson in a panic. That just showed me that Bill O'Brien was really all in for this season. And he probably sold to ownership that, we are going to win this season. Let me do one more season. And now that they're 0-4, they're not winning. That was the time. So I think David Johnson trade really showed that Bill O'Brien was going all in for this season, and it backfired heavily. And now it's backfired for the future of this team. But Dalvin Cook looked really well, played really well, and that was the one takeaway I had. He had a really nice game.
Yeah, Vikings look good. They've had a pretty rough start because of the opponents they played. Indy, Packers, Green Bay, by the way. We'll talk about it later, but my prediction, very wrong on Green Bay. I've admitted that multiple times, so I'm sorry, Pat. But
No
anyways,
worries.
but yeah, anyways, back to O'Brien. I mean, if he wanted to win this season, I feel like why on earth would you trade DeAndre Hopkins? That's my thing. Like you could just use. I believe they had another second round pick. I believe they could have just used that on a guy like Cam Akers or. God, I don't know. I don't know if Akers was there or not, but there are some running backs there that are pretty decent. AJ Dillon, I know for sure was there. Who was the other guy? There was another guy.
I think he
on
had
my list.
so much faith. He had so much faith in himself and in Deshaun Watson that he can get rid of Hopkins, get David Johnson, and then pick up Randall Cobb, and everything will be fine. He thought that everything would be okay, and it's not.
It's completely backfired in Houston. So. Expect a lot of news this offseason coming from Houston. See what they do. See who they trade during the trade deadline as well, because we got the trade deadline approaching. So you could see some guys like Will Fuller could be out the door. I don't know the contract situation in Houston that well, but some of those guys could be out the door by the trade deadline. So
absolutely
something to watch out for. So yeah, for sure. All right, now back to the top of the week. Let's start it off with the Broncos and the Jets, the tank bowl of the century. It ended up being a pretty good game, if I'm being honest. And I got to say, the Thursday night games so far have not disappointed me. They've been fairly action-packed. Yes, the teams have been bad, but they've been fairly high-scoring games. And, I mean, the Broncos, they won it was 37-28. I mean, you couldn't expect much from a team that is, like, riddled with injuries against a team that is, like, the worst team in the NFL. I mean, it was a good game, but I think everyone kind of knew the Broncos were eventually going to come on top. Great game from, Jerry Jeudy. He only had 2 receptions, but for what he got, he made that insane catch, 2 touchdowns, or 1 touchdown, excuse me, but still, Great game overall from the Broncos. Melvin Gordon, too.
The Jets and Broncos going into the game and going into that week and going into that game were the 2 lowest scoring percentage teams in the NFL in offense, 21 and 22% of their drives. So, a lot of people were expecting like a 13-9 weird, like low scoring game. And, you're right. It was an entertaining game for like scoring wise. And that's all you can ask for. I'm a big fan of Thursday night football because, right in the middle of the week, you get something to look forward to. Like tomorrow we wake up, it's like, all right, we got football tomorrow. And, it's one of those things that COVID, there was a potential that Patriot-Chief game could got potentially played on that Tuesday night. And I was looking forward to that because any extra football
every day.
Yeah, football, it's tough with traveling stuff, but sometimes before a bye week, you can make that happen. And not that it has to happen every week, but if you flip-flop games around here and there, it excites fans because I don't know. Some games like on Sundays get lost in the sauce almost. Like Scott Hansen might only show the game twice, and because it's not the most like intriguing game of the week. So sometimes spreading it out is cool. But I thought that game overall really showed Adam Gase's true colors. We're talking about bad coaching. We talk about it pretty much every week with Adam Gase. Everyone's been talking about it. The guy's got to go, but.
Yeah, Jets, absolutely.
Yeah, Jets. Darnold's not going to play upcoming next week. Flacco's going to be the quarterback. So this is really, really, really bad for the Jets.
Yeah, this season's kind of lost season. Everyone's now projecting them to get that number 1 pick, which is probably going to be Trevor Lawrence, unless they decide to stick with Darnold and trade back to get like someone like Penei Sewell, I think is his name, out of Oregon. But we'll see what happens there. But on Adam Gase's note, we've been talking about poor coaching throughout this, and now Bill O'Brien's gone. I don't want to say Adam Gase is next because I don't know what the Jets are doing. The fact that they've kept him on this team as the head coach at this point is kind of shocking, but I feel like he could be next, or maybe someone like Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I was about to bring his name up, Matt Patricia. One thing that you're starting to see with a common thread of these coaching is a lot of these coordinators from previous successful teams might not be the best head coaches in the NFL. Bill O'Brien was a Bill Belichick disciple. He was from New England organization, former offensive coordinator. Matt Patricia used to be the defensive coordinator in New England. I don't know how Joe Judge is going to be, but they haven't won a game yet. Joe Judge was a special team coordinator in New England. So, Brian Flores looks pretty solid. He's defense coordinator in New England. The same thing with Adam Gase. He came from Denver with, Peyton Manning. That was how he rose from success with Manning as the offensive coordinator. So that's something to keep an eye on. You see a guy like Matt Rule, for example. He had a really nice Baylor team last year, coached them up well. He was the hot commodity. Comes here in Carolina, is already a 2-2. He showed he can coach in college, and now he can show he can coach. And showed he can coach at Temple, Baylor, and now Carolina. So I don't know. Adam Gase really couldn't show he can coach in Miami, and now he kind of can't show he can't coach in New York. So yeah, it's bad. And I mean, I can't really say much great things on the other side as well with Vic Fangio, but they got the win. So we'll say that for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up that Carolina team. Let's just move on right to that game because I got to say, they beat the Cardinals 31-21. I had Carolina as going into the season, I had Carolina as the worst team in the league. I just didn't believe in Teddy Bridgewater or that defense. And I got to say, man, they've been looking pretty good so far. 2-2 start. Yes, they beat like 2-2 teams, or I think it's 1-3, 2-2. But still, man, they've looked pretty good. Not to mention the games they lost. The Raiders, and I believe it was the Raiders they kept close. Bucs, it was close until that garbage time touchdown. So, I mean, they've looked pretty decent so far. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs this year, but the future's looking bright in Carolina.
I completely agree. Like when I first stared at this roster, I was like, this could be for what you were just saying, this could be a 4-12 type team. And then after they played, week 1, I was like, this is the type of team that could be 7-9, maybe upset some people this year, which still pretty much could be the story for them. But they look really good. Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator last year at LSU. He comes over. He was killing it with Burrow. And he was great with the Saints the year before, and his offense looks so great in Carolina right now. McCaffrey obviously has been out, and they're still looking. They just won this big game last week against the Cardinals. The defense, if it can just keep improving, they drafted a lot of young guys in the first couple of rounds this year. Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin. These are guys. Dante Jackson's a nice up-and-coming corner, one of the better ones in the NFL right now. And I think this is a team that they're going to surprise people. You see Atlanta Falcons 0-4. Saints don't look like they're just, they're going to dominate and win every game. Tampa can be upset. The Chargers gave them trouble. So you never know. They're a feisty team, and I think they're going to give people problems every week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as for the Cardinals, I mean, I knew they were going to fall off at some point. They weren't going to sustain what they were doing. A loss to the Lions, a loss to the Panthers. I'm not panicking in Arizona, also considering that you're still third in the division. And, I mean, yes, they're 2 games behind Seattle, but at this point, it's evident that Seattle is going to win that division. So, I mean, and you definitely have a chance to beat the Rams. It's early in the season. I'm not panicking for the Cardinals. What I am panicking about is Kenyon Drake. I got to say, man, he's been looking pretty bad so far. And I know for fantasy-wise, a lot of people were saying, avoid Kenyon Drake. This dude has not impressed us at all. And they were right. And I got to say, man, Chase Edmonds could be a great waiver wire pickup this week.
Yeah, I'm a big Edmonds guy. When he came out of Fordham, 2018 draft, I thought he was one of the better, like pretty much a sleeper of that draft. I have him on my dynasty team. I was at MetLife last year for the Giants game, and they played the Cardinals, and the Giants
dominated.
It was pouring raining out. I was in a poncho. Dude, I was freezing my ass off. I had my friend had tickets. I went to the game, and Chase Edmonds had a insane day. You obviously remember it. And this is a guy, when he gets his opportunities, he's solid. And big fan of the Colts defense for sure.
We're gonna get into that next, but I just want you continue on. We'll get into that next.
I think Edmonds is starting to creep into time, even with Drake playing in. He's getting nice receptions. He's scoring touchdowns, and I think you're right. I think he's someone that start adding on your roster. And I'd be worried about Drake, but I think Drake. Last year he don't forget he was on Miami, got traded. He came on later in the season. Same thing with Joe Mixon. He had a first couple bad games last year, came on later season. Same with Henry. So he's someone who started slow last year. We'll see, but I definitely would panic a little bit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other hand, for the Panthers, one guy I think you got to buy. I mean, this episode's called Buyers, Hires, and Wires for a reason. One guy I think you got to buy fantasy, Robbie Anderson, has been looking phenomenal. He is the number 1 receiver in Carolina, not DJ Moore. Although I would say maybe buy DJ Moore for a low price because he could overtake that. But Robbie Anderson is looking legit right now in Carolina. So
yeah, he doesn't know the mascot. He doesn't know the words of Sweet Caroline. He's never heard of Sweet Caroline before from that video, but he knows how to catch a football. He's dominating. He really was, he dominated the last 2 years for what he had in New York with like Josh McCown, even like Darnold. There was a lot of different random quarterbacks, and he produced all the time in New York. So he's really been a bright star for Carolina. I think that was a big reason why they've been playing well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, man. The future's bright for both teams, but Carolina got the victory this game. So For sure. All right, let's get to Jack Adams' comment. He says, what do you guys think about the Colts defense? Let's just get right into the Colts game right now, I guess. I know we're bouncing around a lot, but we're just going with the flow right now. Colts win 19-11 against the Bears. I expected this, and I got to say, man, I took the Colts D 16th round last defense of our draft, my fantasy draft. They've been doing such a great job for me. I mean, Xavier Rhodes has been looking phenomenal this year. I think the bolstering of the D-line helps a lot. DeForest Buckner, my guy, hasn't made a noticeable impact, but is definitely making an impact on that team, helping them out. Still got Darius Leonard, one of the best linebackers in the game. I mean, this defense has been looking phenomenal, and you had them winning the division for a reason, Pat.
Yeah, I had them as the 3 seed in the AFC, and they're just a solid football team. 2 of the most underrated linebackers right now, I think, in the NFL are Anthony Walker and Bobby Okereke, I think pronounce his name. 2 young stars. I think the thing with them, those 2 and Leonard, they're so fast. They can cover tight ends. They can cover, those running backs out the backfield, slot receivers. Rock Ya-Sin's been banged up, and when Rose, and I really like Kenny Moore as well. Those 3 are really solid. Yeah. Malik Hooker got hurt, but it looks like Julian Blackman so far stepping up, and he could be a nice player for them. He had a pick last week. Kamoko Toure, I'm pretty sure, has been on the PUP, and he had a really he had flashes last year as a pass rusher, and I think once he comes back from injury, he's going to be nice. Buckner's big ad. I really like this. I think I've had, like you said, the same thing. I drafted the Colts fantasy defense, and I've had them the whole year. That was something that they're just a solid defense, and they dominated the Jets 2 weeks ago. That pick 6 from Rhodes.
Yeah, I mean, this Colts D has been absolutely dominant throughout the year. They've been looking good. You mentioned Bobby Okereke. I watched this video last night of the Colts War Room when they drafted him. You could see Frank Wright after they drafted him, after he got off the phone, he was so excited that he got this guy. They knew this guy was going to be a star all along, and now he's producing like it. I mean, Pat McAfee, when he got to the stage, future linebacker from Stanford, linebacker Bobby Okereke. That's what he said on stage. So, I mean, yeah, this Colts D is looking good, but as for the Bears, the 3-0 start finally ends. I think we expected to end this game. And I mean, I still don't think this team's that good. They still need to find that quarterback, maybe Trey Lance, who declared for the draft today. But that's all I really got to say about the Bears. I think there's not much hope for the Bears this season, in my opinion.
I mean, the Bears, we keep talking about it. They played the Falcons, who haven't won a game, and they had to really come back and beat over 17 points and come back and beat them. They beat the Giants, who haven't won a game, and they beat the Lions, who's pathetic. They won 1 game so far, so that's a combined 1 win out of 3 teams. So I mean, they've had pretty much just a cupcake schedule, and it showed against a good team. And I think they really have to show this really on a short week upcoming Thursday against the Buccaneers that they're a good football team with Nick Foles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Bucs game is going to be huge for both teams. And let's get into the Bucs really quickly. Before we get into it, I just want to say, again, kind of going on with the Bears, Mike Evans could be out. Chris Godwin probably will be out. Scotty Miller could be out. Whoever their fourth receiver is,
OJ Howard's out for the year.
OJ Howard's out for the year. The Bucs offense is riddled with injuries, and nobody's talking about that for some reason. But I gotta say, man, this is a perfect opportunity for the Bears to win, especially due to the fact that the Bears do have a pretty good pass defense. If I'm being completely real this year, they've held receivers to not that many points so far. So this is going to be a huge opportunity for Chicago to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Roquan Smith's one guy that stood out to me that I think's finally taken that next step into being a superstar in this NFL. His elite speed. He had that pick that didn't get called, got called out of bounds, but still an amazing play. He's flying into the backfield. I think you see him against Devin White 2 years ago. Those were the top 2 linebackers. I thought those 2 and Okereke actually were the top 3 linebackers last year, but you're going to see White versus and Bush's roommate hit them too. But so you got Devin White against Roquan Smith next week. You're going to see 2 dominant linebackers, Levante David as well. But the Tampa Bay, I mean, I got to say, Tom Brady had a really nice performance for what it's worth. Pat Mahomes even kind of struggled a little bit. It was a slow start against that Chargers defense, but he threw 369 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick for a team that had Chris Godwin out. Mike Evans was, he battled through injuries, but Scotty Miller's starting to look like a proven target he's starting to build confidence. He's starting to gain his trust, Tom Brady's trust. So it's going to be a big game for both teams. We'll see if Fournette's going to play. That's a big factor as well. McCoy's out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Scotty Miller. That is actually my waiver wire pick of the week. I have the number 1 claim in my league this week. I don't really need much for my team. I do have an open roster spot because I'm assuming someone's going to go on IR. My team, I have Cam, so I can move him to IR. But I'm going to pick up Scotty Miller with that number 1 claim. I think this dude's looking pretty good right now as a great target. And if Mike Evans is out, Chris Godwin, I'm just going to assume at this point Chris Godwin's out. He hasn't practiced in a while, didn't practice today, so I'm going to assume he's out. Mike Evans, maybe he battled through the leg injury pretty well, so we'll see what happens there. Scotty Miller, I didn't see, what was Scotty Miller's injury?
I don't know what the injury is, but if he's in the lineup, he for sure 4.36 speed. He timed 40 at the 40-yard dash a year ago. This dude's blazing speed. If he comes out in the slot, Justin Watson, if Scotty Miller and Godwin can't go, he's like in his 3rd year from Penn, solid receiver. He's playing a good amount. You'll see him. So that's someone I'll look out for.
Yeah. Also Tyler Johnson, another guy to look out for. I had him really high up in my draft. On my draft board for wide receivers. Yeah. He hasn't played much, but still, I'm trying to find Scotty Miller's. It's a hip and groin injury. He did not participate today, but we will see what happens coming up on Thursday. But anyways, that Bucs game, though, they looked really good that game. And I got to say, like, their defense was their offense has been proving me wrong, I got to say, because I had their offense as their weak point this year. Their defense wasn't going to do that well, but their offense has really been coming out to play as of late.
No, they look really solid. On the other side of it though, I might be one of the only people. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are on the other side of this with Justin Herbert. Until I see like in the 4th quarter he throws like a game-winning touchdown, I can't buy in on him because I just keep seeing him throw a pick in crucial times. I've seen it 3 straight weeks. I've seen it like 3 or 4 straight times in college. I keep coming on saying it every week. It was like 31-17 Chargers. He had a really good game, but when it comes down to like the crucial times, either right before half or right before the game ends, he throws a pick right before in a crucial time. And until I see it, I don't know. I just still have a little bit of concern there with his ball, just turning over the ball. But he looked good besides that pick at the end. They had no Mike Williams. Tyron Johnson had a 50-yard touchdown. So did Jalen Guyton. Guyton's playing really well in a deep sleeper. But Austin Eckler's out. That's the thing that's, I think, going to hurt Herbert because Herbert's going to dump it off to him a lot. So Joshua Kelly's definitely going to be a go-to starter every week now.
I've told you guys for months or for weeks now, I should say, get Joshua Kelly on your team. I've stashed him on my bench. And look, it's now paid off. Hopefully he's got to get that consistency up, though. I'm not starting him this week because I'm going to start David Johnson and Mike Davis instead. But unless I trade Mike Davis, I offered a trade involving Mike Davis, so we'll see if that guy accepts. But, yeah, man, Guyton could be another sleeper right there too. But back to your point on Herbert, I mean, going into the draft, a lot of scouts had bust written all over him. This is kind of why. I mean, He hasn't been producing late in the 4th quarter. I know it's only 3 games, but they've been 3 close games. So still, I mean, he's got to really produce a bit more for me to say, okay, this guy's legit. But other than that, man, he's been looking pretty good so far. So I would say the future's looking fairly bright in Los Angeles. But I mean, Tyrod Taylor, I see why they want to start him. And I see why they didn't want to start Herbert at all. And this is probably why they want him to get used to that 4th quarter drills. Make sure he gets that rawness off his chest before he goes in and becomes that franchise QB.
He just has that different look than what I see from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looks so much more poised from, just 2 rookies comparing them. And I just see that confidence in Joe Burrow late in the game that I don't see yet in Herbert. And hopefully for Herbert's standpoint, for his sake, he picks that confidence up and starts winning games. Because if he does, he's going to be a really good quarterback.
Absolutely. So, yeah, for sure. I think Herbert can step it up. But anyways, great win from the Bucs. Chargers, they're 1-3. I'm not too concerned about them. I think they'll be able to figure it out soon, but we shall see. All right, you mentioned Joe Burrow. Let's talk about him. The Bengals beat the Jaguars 33-25. This was the Joe Mixon coming out party. Finally got out of that slump that he had. And, I mean, yeah, the Bengals look pretty good. And I got to say, the Bengals are, I would say at this point, are the Bengals a playoff team? No, they're nowhere near that, but they're far beyond the 2-14 season they had last year.
Yeah, I like what I see from them. As long as Burrow and the offense keeps coming out, plays well, and the defense improves, and they can just compete in games and, not get embarrassed by the Steelers and Bengals and Steelers, Browns, and Ravens. It's a good year. If they can win 6 games this year, there's nothing to really hang their heads on. As long as Joe Burrow looks good and you can build around him, you can draft offensive linemen, you can build around that. And I think the future could definitely be bright here in Cincinnati for a first time in a whole while, and the first time my whole lifetime for sure.
Yeah, maybe another candidate for Penei Sewell when you come to the draft. I don't know how to pronounce that name, by the way, so
it's pretty close.
Watching it. What is it?
It's something Penei Sewell. It's something
Penei
close.
Sewell. Yeah,
he's a lock. He's guaranteed going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's definitely, right now, he's hands down the best tackle in the draft. So definitely something to watch out for. But Cincinnati, man, they're looking really good. One guy on the waiver wire to pick up, T. Higgins. Another guy a lot of people were saying pick him up last week. Someone in my league did. So I can't hop on that train. But Joe Burrow has been targeting him a lot. He was definitely a top 10 receiver, easily a top 10 receiver, I should say, going into the 2020 draft. Bengals picked him up with the first pick in the second round. And he's looking pretty good so far. So I got to say, man, yeah, he's looking good. One guy you need to get off your team right now, though, A.J. Green. They're not targeting him at all. They want Tyler Boyd. They want T. Higgins, Drew Sample. So A.J. Green's role is definitely diminished in Cincinnati. I got him on my team very early in the season, so I think you guys got to do the same thing, too, if you are an A.J. Green fantasy owner.
$16 million, I believe they're paying him, something around that mark this year.
I mean, to be fair, he was one of the best receivers in the league when they paid him. So, but
no, they just paid him like the franchise tag. It could be like 14. It's a nice paycheck though. It's somewhere.
Yeah, it's a nice pay. I think the franchise tag probably worked out for him because you didn't really know what he was going to do, but he's probably going to move on from Cincinnati after this season.
Crap.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's being paid a lot of money for that franchise tag, so we'll see what happens there. But anyways, for Jacksonville, there's not much to expect from this team. Yes, they did pretty well. Gardner Minshew looked pretty good at the beginning of the season. It's kind of fallen off now, but yeah, that's all I really got to say. Jacksonville hype's kind of falling off. This was the Jacksonville team that everyone was kind of expecting to have throughout this season.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say on this game.
Yeah, I will say, though, Jacksonville next week, they have a matchup against Houston. That could be a great opportunity for the Jaguars to win. So we'll see about that. All right, let's move on to the next game. Let's go with the Saints and the Lions. We were talking about Matt Patricia earlier. And this is why. They were up 14-0, then they went down 35-14 or something like that. Matt Patricia is a terrible head coach. I want him the hell out of Detroit. He's the only thing holding this team back. That's really all I got to say about the Detroit Lions. As for the Saints, this game was kind of a gimme considering what the Lions were doing. 35-14 Kamara right now has been looking like one of the best running backs in football, if not the best. He's one of the most versatile players in football. We'll have to wait to see what CMC can do. And Saquon's obviously out, but still, I drafted Kamara 4th overall, traded him for Saquon immediately after. That has backfired completely. So, yeah, but anyways, Saints are looking good. They're going to get Michael Thomas back, so expect big things from the Saints coming up.
Yeah, I got not much to say on this game. Matt Patricia's pathetic. Matt Stafford.
Absolutely.
They have Matt Stafford. They've won. I know he's got hurt that one stretch last year, but they've won one game in the last year. They've won one game since last October. That's crazy, and it's just, it's pathetic. This is a good football team, and they just come out 14-0 and they just get demolished for the rest of the game, play catch up. The Saints gave them this game. In terms of how many people were hurt for their team: Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins, Andres Pete, Michael Thomas, Jared Cook. There were so many guys hurt, and the Lions had, and even Michael Burton, their fullback, they thought he had COVID. So they were up all night the night before getting tested for COVID on a plane. It was in Detroit. Literally everything this could be a Detroit victory. They came out 14-0 and blew it. It's terrible.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had high hopes for Detroit this year. It's not looking good, but I mean, I feel like if they fire Patricia, they could move on from that, get that guy going. I mean, he ran Darius Leonard out of town. Yeah, he's done nothing to Detroit. In my opinion, him and Adam Gase are the two worst coaches in the NFL, as we just said. So, yeah, I mean, you got that there. Not much else to say about this game for me. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about another Patriots assistant coach that we were talking about, Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins. This is one of the few Patriots assistant that's actually looking really good. They lost to the Seahawks this week, but that was kind of inevitable. But I got to say, the Seahawks, man, they're looking like a Super Bowl contender right now, and that's scary to say coming from a Niners fan. Yeah,
Metcalf's just dominating every week. He's having 100 yards and touchdowns every week. They're winning. I mean, I'll give Miami a lot of credit. They played well. Sooner enough, it's going to be Tua's time, and I'm excited to see that. The writing's on the wall that it's going to be, I would say, in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like 2 to 3 games. Like, it's got to start coming. It's inching towards that way, I think, once they feel ready. But this is a big game next week for the Dolphins for Fitzmagic to I know they have a big. Let me check. I know I marked it down. This is a must-win game for them to stay relevant in the. It was San Francisco. Yeah, your Niners.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is like, an injury team. This is one where the Dolphins could steal one this week, and they got to.
Absolutely. I mean, I gotta say, I was scared if they were going to start Tua, a mobile quarterback. I would be scared because, I mean, it's been showing for this team. Kyler Murray, we cannot stop. We couldn't stop Kyler Murray at all. And then Carson Wentz on Sunday night, when he was out of the pocket, we couldn't do anything. We have no speed rushers on this team. We cannot get to the quarterback whatsoever. So I would not be surprised if the Dolphins if it's a close game and Ryan Fitzpatrick's not doing that well, I would not be surprised to see Tua come in. So stay on alert for that. Tua Tagovailoa may make his NFL debut week 5 against the Niners. But other than that, they're looking pretty good. Future's looking bright there. And I'm not saying that the rebuild's done yet because it's far from over, but this could turn out to be one of the quickest rebuilds in NFL history, if I'm being completely honest.
They have a really nice opportunity here with the Houston Texans. If they keep losing games with their pick, they could get Jamar Chase potentially, someone like him, someone like Sewell, someone really they can get a top 3 pick if Houston really just keeps sucking all year. And then they get that second round pick, so they can get 2 top 35 picks if the Houston, have a really bad year just from the Texans alone. If the Dolphins don't win many games, this is going to be a team that has a lot of assets. They've been making trades in the past, and I don't know. I mean, they're building something, and the foundation's there, and they just got to keep building it. You're right, and there's nothing to really be hang their head down for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you also got guys like Micah Parsons, Gregory Rousseau. Those could be 2 great guys to fit in that Miami system. I'll have to do more film research on them. I usually do that in April, but we'll see some great guys this upcoming class that the Miami Dolphins could use with either of their picks because they could finish there. But, yeah, anyways, great win for Seattle. 4-0 start. You can't really say much about that team. They're on top of the world right now. Dolphins, 1-3, but the future's still looking bright there. So, yeah. Let's talk about the Niners. We were just talking about them. They lost 25-20 from the Eagles, and I've just talked a lot about this game. What a terrible performance from that offensive line. Trent Williams, that could be his worst game of his career. The interior line couldn't do anything. We saw the Laken Tomlinson in Detroit, which was god-awful. McGlinchey was terrible. I could just rant on every player. The only players I can't really rant about are George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and parts of the defensive line. But there's something that's got to change in this team. I think it's the play calling. I don't think this team knows how to call plays with guys like Nick Bosa, D Ford out. They're not blitzing at all. They didn't have to blitz before, but with those guys out, they really do have to blitz now. And that this team's just not making adjustments at all. That's why, I mean, yeah, I'm going off about this. What do you got in this game?
Not much. Brandon Ayuk, definitely jealous
that hurdle though.
I wish the Packers drafted him. He looks like he could be a really, really explosive, dominant receiver in this league with Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I'm on to you guys.
Yeah, George Kittle played really a dominant football game. It really a really amazing football game. Didn't drop a ball. Was dominant.
15 receptions. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would. That's just something we were just saying with McGlinchey. And something that you got to be a little concerned that he's not taking the next step of being one of the better offensive tackles in this league as a top 10 pick.
Absolutely.
He's got to take that next step. You see him, Quentin Nelson. You see, he was the left tackle. Quentin Nelson was right alongside him at Notre Dame, and Quentin Nelson's the best guard in the NFL, and McGlinchey's not near the best tackle in the NFL. So
absolutely,
he's got to take that next step for sure.
I mean, to be fair, like last year he had a pretty decent season, but I think his one problem right now is, and this is something that lingered going into the draft, his run protection was far better than his pass protection, and it's definitely showing. People are going up against him. You're going to see guys like, I don't know, but there's a lot of pass rushers going up against Mike McGlinchey and beating him. So I think that's a major problem. I also think the interior line, I really wanted to address in the draft. We did not. We instead chose Daniel Brunskill to start at right guard. And, I mean, they're okay, but the loss of Weston Richburg has definitely been hurting. Ben Garland's been doing a decent job, but Laken Tomlinson, Daniel Brunskill, out of the 48 guards graded by PFF, they're 46th and 47th respectively.
Jeez.
So
Daniel
something's
Brunskill.
got.
That's a tough tandem at duo at guards.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how much they've regressed because Laken Tomlinson was legit last year. Daniel Brunskill was legit last year. Ben Garland's been looking good throughout the entire season, but those two guys have been looking god-awful so far. So something's got to change. As for the Eagles, I kept saying this is a must-win game for the Eagles, and they got the job done. Even with all those weapons, they're back on track. First place in that awful NFC East. So great win for the Eagles. Niners really got to figure it out because their schedule does not get any easier from here. You got Miami next week, Rams, Patriots, Seahawks, Packers on a short week, Saints, and then you got the Rams again, then Buffalo. Those are the 8 games with teams who all could be in playoff contention, except Miami. So 7 games. So, I mean, it's not looking easy for the Niners, and the future's not looking bright for this upcoming season.
Yeah, we'll see if they could put it together. I think I still have confidence once they have a full health of Kittle, Ayuk, and Samuel, and Bourne and Jimmy G, Mostert coming back. I still think that they have a shot because Eric Armstead's still a beast. They're still they'll get Dre Greenlaw back. They'll get Richard Sherman back. Like there's some missing pieces there that are going to come back, and I think that there's enough there that they could still make a run at it. But there definitely is, a bit of concern there. Philadelphia, they make my brain hurt. I just think they're just like they're a confusing football team. They're just so average to me. I just think like Carson Wentz will make some nice throws, but the most time he's not great. He's kind of a very when Sam Darnold came out, I said he's going to be Carson Wentz. Like he just reminds me of Carson Wentz. Like he might throw 220 yards and a good game if you work play action around him and stuff, but he just looks sloppy. And but the Eagles, they win, and we'll see how they go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Eric Armstead. I don't want to talk too much about this game because I've talked about it a lot on my channel. But I mean, he has not been you say he's been a beast. I definitely disagree with that. He's not been looking as good as he did last year. I think that has to do with the depleted line, man, because they were guarding Bosa, they were guarding Ford, they were guarding Buckner. Armstead was just left alone getting through everyone. So we'll see what happens, but something's got to change in San Francisco soon if they want to compete for that title. Not to mention they're third in their own division right now with a 2-2 record, which is very scary after 4 weeks to just know that you're 2-2 and you're in third place. Most teams are in second place with that record. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to another NFC West opponent, the LA Rams, and we'll talk about the NFC East as well here, the New York Giants, where the Rams beat the Giants 17-9. Very low scoring game, but Rams come out on top. I wasn't expecting much from this game. I expected the Rams to win. They didn't look that good, I got to say. It was mainly a defensive game, but overall, Rams are 3-1. They're second place in the NFC West. You can't really complain there. Giants, man, last place. This is why we both of us had them as the worst team in the NFC East, and all of my friends said, oh, you guys are very wrong. It's going to be the Washington football team in last place. But Giants have been looking god-awful so far.
Yeah, it's just Daniel Jones, he's got 2 touchdowns, 5 picks so far this season. There's really not – I don't got much to say on this game. Rams, from a Rams standpoint, you would like to see them win by more, but they won the game.
Absolutely.
Don't really got much to say. Giants really stink.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I know Malcolm Brown's still available in some leagues. Cam Akers could be worth picking those guys up. It's right now, it seems like it's a committee right now between Brown, Henderson, and Akers could be the third guy, but we'll have to see what happens. I feel like I'm personally not picking them up because I feel like I'm set at running back, and I really want to add a committee guy on that team. But still, if you have one of those guys available in your leads, you're desperate for a running back, might be worth picking them up. Also, I don't know if Devontae Freeman's available in some leagues still, but it's definitely worth picking him up. They're going to give him a lot more carries recently, so maybe by week 8 you're seeing him as the workhorse back, producing 15 points a game, something like that. So we'll see what happens.
I like Gallman. I would keep an eye on Wayne Gallman.
Gallman too. That's another guy to keep an eye on. How often are they using him, or did he have like a lot of points this week?
He didn't do much. Let's see. He had.
I know Freeman had 10.1.
He had 6 rushes, 45 yards, and Freeman
that's actually pretty decent.
Freeman had 11 carries, 33, 4 catches. Dion Lewis didn't do anything. So I think Wayne Gallman came in. He's filled in nicely for Saquon last year. So I think there's someone where, he might have a touchdown, couple catches in a nice game, and he might just end up becoming a top waiver wire pickup suddenly because he's a starter. It's just, he might be nice to keep on your bench if you have the room for him.
Absolutely. Leagues. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, for sure. All right, moving on to another NFC East team, the Browns and the Cowboys. The Cowboys, man, what is going on there? This team is so talented, and they cannot do anything on this team. I mean, it's ridiculous in Dallas right now.
Yeah, this is what I said last week. I was like, I saw a Mike McCarthy football team, a team that just doesn't care about defense, and Dak's going to have to throw for 500 yards to win, and he threw for 500 yards, and they didn't win. So, it shows you, I don't know, if the defense gets better at some point, you would think they'd be good. You would win a game. It's just pathetic though. How much Dak's got to do, in terms of passing yards and not win. It's not like Dak's being, he's not like he's an MVP or anything like that. But they have the ball and have to put up so many points because they're always trailing from behind. That Nick Chubb played well, and then he got hurt. Kareem Hunt came and killed them. Dearness Johnson almost ran for 100 yards. Odell Beckham had an amazing game. He had 3 touchdowns.
Breakout game.
Jarvis Landry threw him a touchdown, and they just came out, and Baker Mayfield didn't even have to do much. He didn't even throw for 200 yards. And once again, the Browns just cruised to a victory by just running the ball and playing simple football, and the Cowboys had to play catch up again. And it's sad that a team with that much star power on offense, not even throwing the ball to Michael Gallup, they had to throw the ball to Amari Cooper over 15 times. So it's definitely a lot of concern there. And Mike McCarthy's one of those guys that's going to call out the rest of the team, but not himself. He's not going to take ownership of losing. And I don't know.
Yeah, this stat actually baffles me right here. Guess who the number 1 receiver in fantasy football is right now?
Cooper.
Yep, Amari Cooper. I am baffled by that. I had very low expectations for Amari Cooper coming into the season, and right now he's the number 1 receiver in fantasy football. So, I mean, this team's all offense. That's a guy that you got to sell right now, I feel like. I don't think he's
starts kind of hot too sometimes.
Yeah, he starts kind of off, gets inconsistent a little bit. I am personally not getting Amari Cooper on my team. I'm not touching him at all. I have CeeDee Lamb, which I'm totally fine with, but yeah, Amari Cooper, I'm not touching it at all. But as for the Cleveland Browns, man, this is why I had them going to the playoffs. This team is looking really good. This is probably the team that has had the highest hopes in a while, maybe even in their franchise history for not in franchise history, but ever since the new Browns were born, this team has definitely had the highest hope.
They had the roster, and they just had to play simple football, run the ball, play action, don't make Baker throw the ball 50 times a game, and They get the ball to their skill position players and don't get killed on defense, and they're going to win games. Myles Garrett is going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and if not, I'd be surprised. He's really he's a dominant force, and they're going to get guys like Greedy Williams, type of guys like that have been injured back on defense. They're going to compete, and they're going to probably make a wild card spot this year. They just got to keep up what they're doing and not let Baker do too much, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Myles Garrett. He's averaging like 2 sacks a game, which is ridiculous at this point. So I don't know how that man can be contained. So one of the few draft picks in their franchise history the Browns have actually hit on. So great job for them. Anyways, let's move on to the next game. Let's talk about the last NFC East team and another AFC North team, the Ravens and the Washington football team. Battle of the Beltway. The Ravens win 31-17. I don't have much to say about this game. This was really expected. Yeah, that's all I really got to say.
Yeah, nothing to say. Mark Andrews played really well.
Absolutely.
Nothing really to say.
Yeah, no really surprise in this game. So we can just move on. Let's move on to the Bills and the Raiders. And I got to say, man, this Buffalo team, I had them winning the AFCs. I think you did. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this Buffalo team is looking legit. They're on a mission right now.
Yeah, I've always been a Josh Allen guy, so I just think he's taking a next step every year, and he's playing really well this season. Derek Carr, I have to admit, I've never been a huge Derek Carr fan, as like most people, but I've liked what I see from him from just being, a decent quarterback. But it is his 7th year in the league, so that's what I expect Derek Carr to look like. I don't expect him to just be the best quarterback in the league, but I expect him to be in the better half of top half quarterbacks, top 15 in the league, top 16. So Raiders, I don't love what I see there. I just think they're just a kind of little below average football team, teetering like 7 to 9 wins. Buffalo just looks real solid. If the Tennessee Titans are able to play this season, this next upcoming game against Buffalo, will be a really nice battle of 2 undefeated teams. So I'm looking forward to that game if it does happen. But I like what I see there from the Bills. Gabriel Davis is someone that you got to look at. He's been really nice in a 5th round pick for them. Nice steal.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Gabriel Davis a lot going into the draft out of UCF. He looked pretty nice. Also, another guy on the Raiders look out for, Hunter Renfrow. I had him as a very deep sleeper you could draft. He's definitely been producing so far with all the injuries in that receiving corps. So another guy to look out for. But yeah, as for the Raiders, man, they look like a pretty average team. I think they could be able to step it up. I had maybe a playoff sleeper on them. I had them finishing 2nd in the AFC West. And it looks like that could be true now because the Chargers are 1-3. Broncos are riddled by injuries, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. So, I mean, yeah, but other than that, good game from Buffalo. They're on a roll right now. I don't see how they could lose. Well, they're going to lose eventually probably, but I don't see when they're going to lose. So we'll see what happens with that. Oh, wait, week 6, they play the Chiefs. That should be a fantastic Thursday night game to watch. Week 6, Chiefs-Bills. So, yeah, you got anything else about that game?
Yeah, I had nothing. Now I'm looking at my predicted schedule. I had the Bills starting off the year at 5-0 and losing to the Chiefs. That's what I had them.
Yeah, I think I had that too. Maybe a loss to the Titans. I forget what I had, but yeah, this team is looking really good right now. So the future is definitely bright in Buffalo. Anyways, let's move on to the Monday night games. The Patriots and the Chiefs. Speaking of the Chiefs, 26-10 victory over the New England Patriots. This is why I hate Brian Hoyer with a passion. That man ruined my life for 5-6 straight weeks. I forget how many weeks it was. He was terrible. I told you he was terrible. He cannot do anything on the field. People don't go, why I hate him. This is why I hate him. He just brings pain and pain and pain to whatever team he is playing for. Brian Hoyer, you deserve to lose. Chiefs win. I mean, yeah, Chiefs they're rolling right now, and I don't see how they can be stopped at this point.
Right? Yeah, no, that's funny. Brian Hoyer is one of those guys. Like you take a step back, you're like, how has he like been doing it for this long? Like he never really was good, and like he's been in the league since 2009. I mean, he wasn't even great. His college stats, if you actually look at him, he was 35 touchdowns, 23 interceptions in his 4-year college career. Which
is ridiculous, man.
Which is like the most, like, that's crazy. That's terrible. And then He's just been bouncing around the NFL. He has 52 touchdowns, 34 picks in his career, and 19 of them came in one season. I mean, the guy's thrown 4 touchdowns since 2017, and he's just bouncing around the league. He's one of those guys you don't want to see as your starter. I know COVID happened, but Jarrett Stidham's one of those guys I know. Edelman dropped that ball and he got picked. He threw another pick, but you vested a high draft pick in him. He's a young quarterback. He's been in the system. Like at least this is a perfect opportunity. Like, see what he's got. Like, if you're gonna see what he's got, put him in for a full game. And I don't know. I just think that what Hoyer's got. It's the same song and dance with Hoyer. He's just a mediocre back up to third string quarterback. You're anything out of them. At least Beathard or Mullins, they're young. They can, you never know what you can get out of them. But like Hoyer,
they call him Brian Hoyerable for a reason, man.
Brian Hoyerable, yeah.
I know. I mean, it's ridiculous how bad he is and how much I hate him. But anyways, man, I mean, Chiefs are looking pretty good right now. I got one question for you. Who's the better tight end, George Kittle or Travis Kelce? Be completely honest here.
Robert Tonyan, Bob Tonyan.
Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan. Sorry, Robert Tonyan 1. George Kittle 2, Travis Kelce 3.
Bob Tonyan's the younger one. No, honestly, I've always liked Kittle. I've just never.
There you go.
Kelce rubs me the wrong way, but Kelce's amazing. I think Kelce's better than Ertz, but I think Kittle's better than Kittle's the best tight end in the NFL, and
easily
he's amazing. He's a great dude, great personality, great blocker, great after the catch, great at running routes. I mean, catches everything. He's really the first tight end that really checks all of the boxes.
Exactly.
Rob Gronkowski used his strength. He was a big dude, red zone, with Brady, everything. But he's a good blocker, but he didn't have the speed with that Kittle had. I think Kittle's really he's amazing. He's the best He's the best in the game. But Bob Tonyan, though,
Robert Tonyan, George Kittle's best friend. So, I mean, they were working out a lot this offseason. It seems to be paying off for both of them. So, Robert Tonyan, I'm always glad to see him do well. Kittle, I think he said that he was like, if he could have one guy on the team, it would be Chris McCaffrey, then Robert Tonyan. So Robert Tonyan to Niners, you have to watch out for that. But anyway, speaking of the Packers, let's talk about them. Their win over Atlanta. I'm not surprised by this at all. Atlanta sucks. Packers are on a roll right now. But speaking of Robert Tonyan, you could get a lot more touches from him because of the DeGuara injury. Is it Josiah DeGuara? Yeah.
Yeah. To slip it in before the last game, I think my waiver wire pickup of the week's Damien Harris, just to throw that in there.
Oh, yeah.
I think Damien, that's all I had to say in that game is Damien Harris. I think, now that Sonny Michel's out, I think he's going to get a lot of the carries. He had 100 yards last game, so I think if he starts catching the ball, scores the touchdown, he'll look good. But so Josiah DeGuara is a third round rookie.
Pick.
He plays more of the H-back. Tonyan has proven by far he's the best tight end on this football team.
Absolutely.
Going into training camp, going into week 1, they said Tonyan was the guy. So it's not surprised that Tanyan's the starter and everything. Mercedes Lewis is, the proven veteran, and Sternberger's another one out there. But Tanyan's proven that he's the best one. It's his 3rd year. And right now, through 4 games, Robert Tonyan has 5 touchdowns. If you combine the top 6 fantasy tight ends on ESPN PPR going into the league, George Kittle was number 1, Travis Kelce was number 2, and going throughout the rest of this list. But if you take out Mark Andrews, who's having a good year of 4 touchdowns, George Kittle, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and Evan Ingram all combined have 5 touchdowns, the same as Robert Tonyan. So big Bob Tonyan, he had 3 last night, but he had won the game before, won the other one. He's really just stepping up and proven that he's one of Rodgers' favorite targets. I really like what I see from this Packers team, to be honest. Aaron Jones is looking like one of the best running backs in football. They had random dudes out there playing receiver last night. Jair Alexander, again, is proven he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. And
locked down Calvin Ridley completely.
Locked him down. Calvin Ridley came in just dominating the past 3 games, and 5 targets, let up no receptions, just looked so good. And, I really like what I see. I think the Packers even could play better than what they just did, but I like what I see. How about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I said before, Packers, they've been proving me wrong all along. They're 4-0 now. They're looking phenomenal right now. Their offense is just so high powered. Their defense is looking great right now. This team definitely has a legit shot to win the Super Bowl this year. So the future is definitely bright in Green Bay. As for Atlanta, another coach we haven't talked about at all this episode, Dan Quinn. That guy needs to go out the door immediately, along with Adam Gase, Matt Patricia. Get all three of those guys out there. The future, I mean, Dan Quinn has not been doing a good job in Atlanta, and it's long time for him to go.
I want to save the best stat I had to want to provide for last. Dan Quinn has, since he's been the head coach of the Falcons in 2015, he's blown 6 leads of more than two or more touchdowns, so 14 or more points. 1 was in the Super Bowl, and 2 were in this week, and 2 were previous. The Jaguars, Raiders, and Steelers have never blown a lead of 20 or more points in their entire franchise history. He's done ridiculous. He's doing things that like franchises have never done. Like there's franchises that have maybe once or twice have given up a double-digit lead in their entire franchise history. Like Steelers have been around forever, and Dan Quinn's blown 6 double-digit leads, and I don't know. I mean, what else you got to do to not be a head coach? Like prove you're not a head coach.
I mean, it's ridiculous how this team keeps them around, and I also think like Arthur Blank's incompetent ownership is definitely showing right now. Like he is not doing much with this team. He's just like, here you go, Dan Quinn. This is your team. Do whatever you want with it. So I think you definitely need a change in Atlanta for them to succeed. So.
And the thing is that you got to keep an eye out for is if you get a new coach, does he want Matt Ryan as his quarterback? I mean, Matt Ryan's he's not got too many years left in the NFL, and his arm strength's starting to regress. And the same thing goes with Matt Stafford. Is if a new coach, does he want Matt Stafford? Does a new coach want Sam Darnold? Like these are things that are going to have to take in consideration for new coaches, that they're going to want their guy and their quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, there's Matt Ryan and the whole Falcons. I mean, I'm not a Falcons fan. I'm not a Lions fan. I'm not a Jets fan. And I'm annoyed for these, like, just from seeing it, like, how do these guys still have a job? I couldn't even imagine how their fan base feels. So something's got to change. And I'm happy to see that the Texans finally took the step and were the first to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you could see a lot of coaching changes coming soon. So definitely something to watch out for. Those 3 names, Dan Quinn, Matt Patricia, Adam Gase. Definitely 3 names to watch out for. But yeah, great game for the Packers. Falcons suck. That's basically my takeaway from that game. So yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off about the Patriots game, but again, Damien Harris, I would maybe consider picking him up. The one hard thing I have about New England running backs is just so hard to trust, like who's going to get the carries, who's going to get. It's a committee. It's like the most committee of all the committees. So
yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Sonny Michel really disrupted all of the carries because he really is going to get a lot of the carries, but he's not going to catch the ball that much. He might not score a touchdown, so he's going to take a lot of carries, but he might not do much. James White's going to get, with him out, James White's going to get a lot of catches, but he might not get that many handoffs. And same with Burkhead. Burkhead's going to get some handoffs and stuff, and he's going to get used. But some games they might not use them that much. I think they're going to going further. They're going to give Damien Harris the rock. And going into the season, Damien Harris was going to be their starting running back with Michelle on the PUP, and then he got hurt. So that was why he didn't become a starter. So I think going further, I think Harris is going to be the guy and prove it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely have to see. It's definitely a low risk, high reward waiver claim. So you can't really go wrong there. But yeah, for sure. All right, I believe that is all the games this week. So let me just check. Yep, that is every game that we have gone over, every game from week 4. So as for week 5, I know we're a bit time constrained, but I say let's just do a rapid fire predictions. Just say who we think is going to win, go through each game. That sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So let's start off with Thursday night game, Bucks Bears. I got the Bucks winning this one. I just don't see the Bears, how they can compete with this Bucks team. So I got the Bucks winning. Yeah,
I'm going to just address that. I might change a prediction before Sunday, just looking on injury stuff. But I'm going to go with a gut feeling looking at it right now. Definitely Buccaneers. I mean, I think the Buccaneers are a better team.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we'll make sure to tweet these predictions out. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Brawl. We'll make sure to tweet our predictions out before the game because I'm assuming some things are going to change with all the injuries and everything. So we'll see how it goes. Bills and Titans. This game could get postponed. It's looking like it's not. Titans had another day of no COVID tests, but I'm going to go with Buffalo here. Even though the Titans had a bye, technically they weren't really doing much because I feel like this team's just going to be like kind of COVID depleted, I guess you can say. They're going to be exhausted after what happened last week, maybe a bit of stress on their shoulders. And Buffalo's on a roll, so I got Buffalo winning this game.
I think actually they might be really, really, really shorthanded if they play this game.
That too.
Like they have over 16 players that 18 players that are on the COVID list. And if, they have COVID and everything and they're sitting out and they have to miss this game, like that's Jeffrey Simmons or D tackle. Daquan Jones is another D tackle. Like they're full bet. Like the list goes on. They're missing so many players that they're not going to beat the Buffalo Bills if that's the case. So I'm definitely in that case going Buffalo Bills. I wish I could see a bet. I wish this was different outcome, different circumstances where they would be both good teams, healthy, playing in a normal game. But I'm going to go Bills.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jaguars and Texans. The Texans are coming off Bill O'Brien's firing. I don't think that's going to help them. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this game.
I'm going to disagree. I think that this is going to be like the pissed off Texans, like FU Bill O'Brien game where the coach is there. Romeo gets the boys riled up. And I think that they're just going to, win this game and just to piss off and say FU to Bill O'Brien. So I'm going to go Texans here. And I think they're going to just dominate them just to piss off Bill O'Brien and get back at him.
Yeah. All right. I can definitely see that happening, but we'll see what happens. Bengals and Ravens. The Ravens are going to win this game. I don't really want to say much else about that. The Ravens are going to win.
I think this is
going to be a closer game, though.
This is a crucial game for Joe Burrow to show that he can be in the same playing ground with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar. This is a division that he's going to play them twice a year, have to compete every year for a decade, for like the next decade if everything goes well. These are two former Heisman quarterbacks. So I think, it's a 13.5-point spread right now. If the Bengals can cover that, play a good football game, like I said earlier in the show, they just want to show that they're a good team this year. But I think the Ravens win this game handedly. But I think it'll be a pretty good game. It'll be like a 10 to 15-point win for the Ravens.
Yeah, it should be a closer game than people are expecting. But, yeah, for sure. All right, Panthers and Falcons. This could be another close game. I think the Panthers are going to win this. They've won 2 straight. They're looking pretty good right now. The Falcons are looking absolutely awful. So I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers beating the Atlanta Falcons.
I've said I keep thinking the Falcons are just going to somehow keep sooner or later win a football game. So I'm just going to pick the Falcons again just to they stink. And it seems like the Panthers are one of those teams that are going to upset good teams and just randomly lose to the Falcons. So I'm going to go Falcons.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Raiders and Chiefs. The Chiefs are on a roll. I don't see how they lose this game at Arrowhead. Yeah, the Chiefs win this game.
That's the one thing I'm curious about is 2 things I'm curious about. One is that last year when the Raiders played the Chiefs, the Raiders came out and kicked their ass in the first half and they blew it in the second. And I'm sure they're going back on the tape and saying we can go beat this team. We did it in the first half last year. So this is a game I think the Raiders really got to prove that similar with the Bengals that they're on it. They can compete with the Chiefs, that this is, one of the best teams in the league. Chiefs didn't look great in a big win against the Patriots. So they're probably going to come out firing. I'm going to go Chiefs. But the Raiders, the second thing I'm looking out for is their defensive tackle, Maurice Hurst, got placed on the COVID list. So I'm hoping that no one else, if he played that in that game, because he did play in that game, I'm hoping no one else got it. So that's something to keep an eye on that this game plays. But I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah, definitely. There was another guy, I forget on what team that got placed on the COVID list. It might have been the Ravens. I don't know.
Patriots.
It was the Patriots. Okay, so that makes sense. But I think it's usually when there's one case, it's usually just he was exposed to it or something. So we'll see what happens there. What's the next game? Let's go with the Cardinals and the Jets. This game's at MetLife. The Jets could get their first win. I don't see it happening. I got the Cardinals winning.
Yeah, Murray's going to run around them like crazy. I remember, like I said before, I was at the game where they played the Giants last year at MetLife, and they just destroyed them. I watched them they destroyed the Giants. I think they're going to come to MetLife again and destroy the Jets. I think the Cardinals are going to – they have a lot to really come out and prove. They just got they lost 2 really bad games against the Lions and Panthers, so I'm going Cardinals.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to come out with a vengeance this game. Next game, we got the Eagles and Steelers. Steelers coming off the bye. Eagles coming off a win. in San Francisco, but I got the Steelers, man. I love the Steelers team. I think they're going to keep rolling, so Steelers win.
These two teams, they play every 4 years. Battle of Pennsylvania back in the 50s. Fun fact, the Eagles and Steelers merged as a team and they were the Steagles. Yeah. So this is a team that, they want a Battle of Pennsylvania, a lot of bragging rights, and I just think the better team in Pennsylvania wins this game, and it's the Steelers. Steelers win this one.
Yeah,
they're going to destroy, by the way, they're going to destroy Carson Wentz. Their pass rush is going to destroy him. Yeah, that pass rush is
legit. I don't see how guys like Miles Sanders and that offensive line
they're going to destroy Carson Wentz.
Yeah, man. I don't see that pass rush halting for anything. So, yeah, for sure. All right, Rams and the football team. This could be an interesting game. Washington's definitely looked better than I thought they would, but I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think that's the safer pick. But Washington, that could be an upset this week to watch out for.
I'm gonna say I completely agree. I think I'm the exact same feeling on that. They could pull the upset if the Rams don't come out. Weird. I don't know. Sean McVay's one of those guys I could see get motivated by weird shit, and he used to be the offensive coordinator for Washington. So I feel like it's something that will maybe get him motivated to beat Dan Snyder. That's always something that gets him going. So I don't know. I'll go Rams, but I think there's potential that Washington's defense can give them trouble. I really like what I see from Antonio Gibson so far this season.
Yeah, he's been looking like a late round. Was he round 3 or round 4? I forget.
It was either 2 or 3. It was either late. It was late second or third. It was. Let
me look. It's Antonio Gibson was drafted with a 66th overall pick. So early third.
He was the second pick of the third.
Yeah, so he's been looking phenomenal so far. So I had big hopes for him. When Darius got cut, I picked him up on almost every team that I had drafted. He's been doing great. So, yeah, for sure. Dolphins and Niners. I got to go with the Niners this one, but this is another one where you could get an upset alert, especially if Tua Tagovailoa is playing at all this game. I got the Niners here, but Miami could upset this team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go Niners. I'm going to say this gut feeling. I'm going to say this is the final game for Fitz. I think that
probably.
I think this might be the game where potentially Tua comes in, or this is the game that Fitz really just might lay an egg, and I think this is going to be the final Fitz game. So I'm going to go San Francisco here.
Yeah, if Tua comes in, then San Fran's kind of screwed right now because they cannot stop that mobile quarterback at all. So yeah, Giants and Cowboys. The Cowboys should win this one. If the Cowboys lose this one, then there's something really wrong in that organization.
The Giants are going to get really, really killed this game.
I'm with you on that.
It's going to be bad. I think if they, they could weirdly stay in games like they did with the Rams, but in a division game, the only thing honestly, I'm definitely going Dallas, but the Jason Garrett revenge game is interesting, but I'm going more on Dallas. Dallas is going to want to kick Jason Garrett's ass. The Giants,
that might be fun to watch.
The Giants aren't going to go all at 0-4, rally up and say, let's go win for Jason. The Cowboys are going to go rally up and say, let's kick Jason's ass. So I think Dallas kicks their ass. Giants have no defense. So they're, Dax and the Zeke are going to have field day on them. And the Dallas's defense stinks, but besides Darius Slayton and Ingram, they don't have much. So the Dallas is going to win, I say 35-14 this game. It's going to be a big win for Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we just talked about Tua. I just want to bring up this tweet from NFL Update about Tua. How the Dolphins, it seems like that looking at the Dolphins schedule, they're looking maybe to insert Tua by week 10. It could happen sooner though, because the week 10, you got Jets then you play the Jets again, and then you play the Bengals. That could be a perfect 4-game stretch to start out Tua Tagovailoa. So we'll see if it comes sooner. We'll see if it comes then. But anyways, moving on to the Broncos and the Patriots. The Broncos are riddled by injuries, but the Patriots don't have Cam Newton, and I don't trust Brian Hoyer or Jared Stidham at this point. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. If Cam Newton's out, that will probably change, but I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos for this game.
I agree. I think the Broncos are going to find ways to win weird enough games this year that they're going to kind of still be in the hunt for when they get some key guys back, and I think the Broncos can win this game and without Cam Newton.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving on to the Colts and the Browns. Both are 3-1 teams. This is an intriguing matchup. This should be getting attention. Unfortunately, it's not right now, which kind of pisses me off. But this is good, looking like a great game. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns here. I think I like what I'm seeing from this team a lot. I'll take the hype train. Colts, they're rolling too, but it's in Cleveland, so I think I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns here.
I'm going to go 28-24 Colts. I think Nick Chubb out is a big loss for them. I think they're, Nick Chubb and Hunt are a great duo, but just Kareem Hunt, they're going to have to, really rely on Kareem Hunt. And I think the Colts defense matches up well. I think this is going to be a good football game. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a really big game here. I think this is going to be his breakout game. And I think the Colts, I think he scores at least one touchdown, maybe two, has 100 yards. And I think maybe T.Y. gets involved. He's had a really slow season so far.
Yeah.
I like the Colts here, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was really high on T.Y. It's kind of disappointing me how he's not doing much, but yeah. All right, moving on to primetime. Seahawks, Vikings. The Seahawks should win this game. They're on a roll right now. I don't need to say much.
Yeah, from what I've seen on Minnesota's defense, they're in for a rude awakening from Seattle's offense because Seattle's passing offense is one of the best, if not the best, I've seen so far, and Minnesota's pass defense is the worst, if not the worst, so far this year. So Seattle should win this one handedly. But Dalvin Cook, he might have a really big game against that pretty bad defense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Kirk Cousins primetime, that does not match at all. So. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Anyways, to Monday night, the Saints and the Chargers, final game of the week. I got the Saints here. They got Michael Thomas back, probably. Alvin Kamara's rolling. Even though the Chargers D is looking pretty good, their secondary is looking decent. I think the Saints just overmatched them, and I got the Saints winning this game.
Yeah, the Saints are a really good football team in October, and I don't see them losing back-to-back Monday Night Football games, so I'm going Saints.
Yeah, for sure. So that is our Week 5 predictions. We're going to tweet out an updated version right before the Thursday night game, hopefully, or before Sunday. We'll see about that. But, Pat, you got anything else before we end this episode?
Nah, Sam, I'm all good. I'm excited for this week. I think Packers on a bye, so I'm going to look at the game. Should be a pretty good slate. I'm looking forward to that Colts-Browns game, I think, as most.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got a 4-day weekend, so that'll be very fun to just have a football-filled weekend, Thursday night, Friday night. Well, Friday night I'll probably be doing some. Friday night we'll do other things because that's not football. But Sunday, get to watch all those games, and then Monday night, yeah. So, I mean, it's looking good, man. But should be a great week of football. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure to check out all the Brawl Network podcasts and all of the Brawl Network accounts, Brawl Network articles, you name it. Make sure to check them out, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.